Hello, everyone. How are we? Hopefully, all of you are having a fantastic day wherever we are around the world. Hopefully, everyone's good. Hopefully, everyone's enjoyed the international break because, let's be honest, it's been boring as hell. Unless, of course, you've been obviously thrilled with the international tournament. Of course, qualification is now a thing for the World Cup. Obviously, congratulations to Scotland as well for getting into the World Cup. But again, obviously, talking about club football. Liverpool are, of course, days away from being back in action, which, look, at the end of the day, this season's not been great so far. But, we're to discuss and, of course, talk a little bit about contract news and obviously transfer news and get your guys' thoughts in the comments down below as well. Apologies, there's been no shows over the international break as well. Like, again, busy life, ridiculous at the moment anyway. But how are we, chat? Hopefully everyone's good if you are watching this live or on the repeat as well, because I know people do watch it on the repeat as well. But look, for me, like the things we're going to talk about tonight, it could happen. Obviously, Liverpool had a crazy summer transfer window, and it could very well be the case that Liverpool have a crazy January window coming up as well. But let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. As we mentioned, we're going to talk about Antoine Semenyo as well, who has basically been in the headlines all over this international break around a certain piece of information that did come out a couple of nights ago, which we'll discuss in due course. Obviously, we'll talk about Ibou Konate as well. Obviously, looks like he's got a new offer from Liverpool that we'll get onto in a little bit, as well as Dominic Szoboszlai and the likes of Ryan Gravenberch. They've also been given new contracts. Dom Szoboszlai has been given a new contract. Obviously, it looks like Ryan Gravenberch is in the start of conversations for one. And we're going to discuss, of course, Mark Gahey obviously joining Liverpool potentially on a free transfer. But again, we'll get into a bit more of the details a bit later on. Anyway, but again, let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. But we're going to obviously kickstart the show and talk and discuss mainly kicking off the show, talking about Ibou Konate, because today Fabrizio Romano did a show, I believe, or it was a podcast that he did, talking about obviously the latest stuff around obviously the transfer market, and he spoke about how Liverpool are now in discussions with Ibou Konate over a new contract. He did come out and say that Liverpool are still in talks with Ibou Konate over a new contract. The player has a decision and what to do, as he has several opportunities around Europe. Liverpool made their proposal to him, and they are still waiting for an answer from the player. So again, Ibou did speak about this a little bit during the international break around with France, saying that he yet has not received anything, which is a bit alarming. And of course, his wording around it also very concerning on the Liverpool side of things. If you want obviously Ibou to stay, I think a lot of people taken out of context a little bit, where I think Konate, for me, people are not as, what's the right word, tribalism around Konate as they are around Trent potentially, because again, obviously Konate's not a Scouser and so on, but I think the overwhelming, I think, amount of frustration from last year was the fact that we didn't know what was going on with Trent till it was literally a couple of weeks before the season ended. And of course, Liverpool were in a league title race, and obviously Liverpool were trying to win other competitions as well. But I think that I think was the biggest frustration from last year, was the fact that Liverpool, it was always lingering, wasn't it? Around Trent and around Salah and Virgil, around, are they going to leave? Are they going to stay? We don't know what's happening. And I think the big thing for me is getting it sorted early, because again, Liverpool are looking at targets. They're looking at Bastoni. They're looking at Nico Schlotterbeck. They're looking at obviously Mark Gahey. Again, the names are there for Liverpool to look at, and I think that's the difference, I think, between Trent and Konate as well, is because Liverpool have an idea already of who they already want or idolise in those positions, really, for what Liverpool want to do, and whether or not, again, Liverpool are willing to push the bank out for Ibou Konate. Like, look, for me, in my opinion, this season Konate's not been great. I think, again, Liverpool have not been great. Let's not lie around it, but I think Ibou, the last few weeks was positive, and then that Man City game happened, and then you're back to square one, and that's the little bit of annoying thing around Ibu. He has had an awful season, in my opinion, but again, when Kanate is up to scratch like he was last season, he's one of the best in Europe, and that's the other side of it. Of again, can you replace Kanate with better quality? Yes, you can if you're going to play, ridiculous amounts of money. But I also think there's another question mark around Mark Gahey, which we will talk about. If Mark Gahey was to come in right now, does Kanate start week in, week out? You'd most likely say no, because again, I think Mark Gahey, in my opinion, comes into the Liverpool's team and I think works straight away, because I think the way the team is, I think the way the balance is at the moment, again, I think you could end up playing a back three with Mark Gahey, Kanate, and Virgil. But I also think, Mark Gahey can play alongside Virgil van Dijk and be completely fine as well. So again, there's different conversations around it, but I think Liverpool don't want to be in the same position as they was last season in terms of just waiting and hanging around and seeing what happens. I think they'll just want to know straight away what's happening, really. And then realistically, I think that's the possibility around it as well. But big up Ollie as well. Hope you're doing well. St. Evening Con up the Reds as well. Hopefully you're doing well, Ollie. Semenyo and Gahey in January, possibly. I think that's the likely direction it's going in at the minute, which we will discuss in tonight's episode. And yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Because Semenyo, very good player, has hit the purple patch at the start of this season, but again, he is a very good player. But I want to talk about that, in its own little way as well. But hello, Cal. That says he's alive. I am alive, just about. But no, all jokings aside, hopefully you're doing well, Cal, and chat as well. But yeah, look, apologies, there's been no shows, really. But yeah, hopefully, obviously, content's coming up now, isn't it? Because look, let's not lie, international break, it's a bit meh to talk about content and so on. But Ollie says, such a pity about Leone. He would have kept Kanate on his toes. I agree. I think it's interesting. If you go back and watch that Southampton game, I think it's very interesting that Leone didn't play on the left. And I know that he can play there quite comfortably. He was very good, wasn't he, against Southampton? But that's the thing. Like, in my opinion, I think we would have definitely seen a lot more rotation around Kanate and Leone, 100%. And I think we wouldn't have been as not as much as bad as what we have been, but I do think there would have been a bit more balance there potentially, because it's quite clear that Joe Gomez isn't favoured at the minute. Joe Gomez is only there at the minute to be backup. Let's be perfectly honest. Around there at the minute, again, in an ideal world, Liverpool are playing Joe Gomez to kind of invert into a 3, and maybe you bomb on Kirkes. Or again, the other way around, put him left back, bomb Frimpong or Conor Bradley up, and at the minute that's not working. So yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? But we did leave ourselves short in the summer, even though we spent £400 million. But Cal says no Scotland, no party as well. Yeah, that's true. Fair play to Scotland as well. It was a good game last night. Taking a look at it, I'm not Scottish, but to be fair, I think look, it'll be good to get all of the nations to the World Cup. Like I'm not going to sit here and go, a big advocate for international footy, because I'm not. Sure, I enjoy a World Cup, I enjoy Euros, but international footy during a season, I hate. And you guys should know that if you're long-time viewers of the channel. But yeah, fair play to Scotland. I know obviously if Doug is watching, we'll be absolutely over the moon with that. I believe it's their first first World Cup since '98. So yeah, very good for them as well. But evening all, well done to Scotland as well. Big up Ian as well. Hope you're doing well. Oh, not Ian, yeah, Jim, sorry. But yeah, a good win for Scotland. Joe Gomez is better than Canate. Probably. Like, I'm surprised we've not seen more of Joe Gomez this season. But look, at the end of the day, Arne Slot does not favour him at all, does he? Let's be perfectly honest. At the present moment in time, and look, it's a bit of a worry, isn't it? You know, the Joe Gomez can't realistically get any game time for Liverpool, which look, I think of what was it 2 seasons ago, Joe Gomez, the final year in the Jurgen Klopp, I thought again made a turning point. You know, got back to form. Was I think very much Liverpool's most underrated player throughout that season. You know, every time we put him into the defense, we looked solid. But yeah, he's just never really kicked on as he under Slot. But again, everyone will remember the times of Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez in 1920. Brilliant defensive shape that was. But again, speaking about contracts, obviously, if you guys haven't seen throughout this week or didn't see our short, that Dom Szoboszlai has been given a new contract by Liverpool. It is rumoured to be around £200,000 per week, which again, you know, I think he will end up signing. I think that'll be an announcement maybe, you know, in the next couple of weeks. But we know as well that the club are working on Alexis McAllister. We know the club are working on Ryan Gravenberch as well. Whether or not, you know, all three might get announced around the same time will be interesting. I think for sure we will see the likes of Dom and Ryan Gravenberch get their contracts done. Maka, I'm a bit 50-50 on a little bit at the minute, because I know people will go, oh, well, Maka should get 100%. And I would agree from last season. But so far, McAllister's been awful. You know, that's not a lie around it. Maka's been poor this season so far. And whether or not the club might cash in on him and try and maybe change the midfield next summer as well, that might be another question mark. For me, I think if Maka can get back to his best, then look, last season he was in the conversation for me being part of the best midfield last season. I thought, you know, if we're going to take, of course, biased out of it, in my opinion, I think last season, I think you would have put, you know, as a mid, you know, what is Europe's best midfield? I think you would have gone, what, Vitinha, Pedri, and Alexis McAllister. I thought that was the best midfield in Europe last season. But so far this season, Dom Szoboszlai is in the conversation for sure. I think Dom's been, even though Liverpool have been poor overall, I think Dom has easily put his name in the conversation of being one of the best players so far in the league. I think he's been excellent for us, you know, and that's of course to show, you know, how good he is, but also the fact that it's not only just one particular position, it's a multi-system that Dom's been playing this so far this season. You know, he's been playing right back, centre back at times. You know, even if we wanted him to, you know, DM, attacking midfielder, I think we've been playing him at left wing at some point. You know, through, you know, changing through systems and games as well. So, like, Dom has been everywhere on the pitch, hasn't he, so far this season? And look, for me, at the moment, he is Liverpool's best player. And has been this season for sure. So again, glad that Dom has actually been given a new contract as well. Hopefully Ryan Gravenberch can be dealt with soon as well, because there was those weird links. Have you guys seen them going around about a certain Barcelona offering a player plus a near around £50 million for him? Again, absolute load of rubbish, which you tend to get around international footy as well anyway. But before we do get on the Semenyo stuff, of course, I want to talk about Mark Gahey as well, because he does link a little bit in with the whole contract situation and so on, and when we talk about Canate as well, because, again, Ibu Canate, at the moment, I don't think Liverpool... Like I said, I don't think Liverpool are that upset potentially if they was to lose Canate, because they've got the contingency plan to get a Bastoni, to get a Mark Gahey as well. There are options for Liverpool to able to get replacements in the door, and I think Mark Gahey is number one on Liverpool's list at the moment. Of course, we already know throughout the summer with the failed bid on deadline, or the failed trying to buy him on deadline day, because again Palace pulled out of the deal. I think the overall consensus is that he will join Liverpool at some stage, but Sky Sports, about 25 minutes before I went live, come out with breaking news, and this was from Crystal Palace themselves, saying that Crystal Palace believe Liverpool may be the only team to buy Mark Gahey in January. The feeling around Selhurst Park is that other major European sides' interest in Mark Gahey is only willing to sign him on a free agent in the summer transfer window next year. So, look, in my opinion, looking at it, the only team, in my honest opinion, that I think will maybe challenge Liverpool is Bayern Munich. I do think Vincent Kompany will like Mark Gahey because he's very good on the ball. And I also think that's why Arne Slot very much likes him, because, again, very good, solid defender, can play everywhere on the back four. He is essentially, and again, this isn't me trying to take the mick, he is essentially an upgrade on Joe Gomez, because he can play everywhere. He can play as a left back, can play two centre halves, even play as a right back if you needed him to, as well, in a more defensive shape, which again Liverpool do need. And I think that is the vital thing for Liverpool at the moment, where the big question mark for us is, can we survive 6 months without Mark Gahey? Even though, again, you can buy him on a free you can get him on a free in the summer, but also then you give yourself a 6 month window where other teams can also come in for him, i.e. Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich. Yeah, again, I was just talking to Ricky about this, how the dumbest rule in football at the minute is the fact that Premier League teams cannot speak or cannot officially get a pre-agreed contract with another Premier League club's player, even though he's going to be on a free transfer. Like, for example, everybody knew that Trent was going to go to Real Madrid after January, i.e. Real Madrid bidding £20 million for him. But again, I think personally the only team I can see possibly Mark Gahey going to is Bayern Munich, because again, I just think Vincent Kompany, looking at Bayern Munich's centre half options, again, Upamecano is still up in the air whether or not he's going to end up leaving. He could end up going to Real Madrid as well, kind of a similar situation to Ibu Konate at Liverpool. So whether or not Liverpool do end up pulling the trigger in January, personally I think we end up doing it. Like, I think Liverpool would be stupid not to do that. Really, like, if Liverpool didn't end up signing Mark Gahey in January, I think that would be a bit of a failure, because again, obviously it does depend on price, because look, first and foremost, we're not talking about Liverpool spending around 40-50 million pounds on a player. I think Liverpool would have to pay around 20 million for him, and that isn't me taking the mick of that, but personally I would think that we would have to spend around 20 million quid for Mark Gahey, because again, he has that price. But also what Crystal Palace could look at is go, well, Liverpool managed to get £10 million for Trent with 2-3 weeks left of his contract, just because of a Club World Cup. So they could also use our really good negotiation skills against us, where they're like, okay, maybe we want this amount because you ended up getting so much for Trent against Real Madrid, which that would backfire massively on Liverpool. But look, in my opinion, I think Liverpool do end up, whether that be in January or whether that be in the summer, I do think Liverpool will try and get Mark Gahey over the line at some point. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But look, I do think January, it's a must. Really, I don't think it's a situation where you can wait 6 months, because again, we know Leone's out injured. We've been very lucky so far as well. The fact that Virgil, touch words, that Virgil, Joe Gomez and Konate has realistically been okay with injuries. I do think we desperately need more than a centre half, but I think in an ideal world, Liverpool sign two. In a realistic world, sign Mark A. I think we're fine. If I'm being honest. Anyway, but again, let me know your guys' thoughts down in the comments. But Dominic Szoboszlai, yeah, absolutely, he has been boss this season. Whilst Icon agreed, it has to be in January. Yeah, I would 100. Yeah, I think it's a necessity. Liverpool get him in January. I'd be very surprised if we didn't realistically do that type of deal. But again, the whole question mark will be maybe Mark he would want to finish the season off at Crystal Palace because, again, we've not really got anything from Mark he himself about the failed move. Of course, people tried to get it out of him straight after the international break because, again, after the transfer deadline day was over, of course, it was international football. So obviously, everybody tried to get it out of him at the time, and I think reading between the lines, he was very disappointed the fact he didn't get the move to Liverpool. But there's also the question mark of, like we said, about the pre-agreed contracts, whether or not he would look at a team like Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, if there are conversations there around Mark he going to them. Of course, maybe he'd want to wait 6 months just to see his options, which he has every right to do. Let's be perfectly honest. And the way Crystal Palace are at the moment, there's also the conversation of Palace pushing for Europe. Also, they're in the Conference League, so that's a fantastic opportunity to win a trophy at Palace. It's kind of similar to how Declan Rice did it at Arsenal in some sense, where Declan Rice won the Conference League at West Ham, then joined Arsenal, left on a very good note all round. I think that's kind of similar with Mark Gahey, because I think Palace fans I've also I think some Palace fans are a bit divided. I think some people are happy that if he was to stay 6 months, I think some others would be like, well, if we could get 20 million for him now, then that would be a massive bonus moving forward for potentially another signing that Palace could end up doing to replace him. Because of course there was talks around, I think Diamonde from Sporting to be the replacement. That never really materialized into anything. But yeah, for me, I think if Liverpool on January 1st could get a deal done, be perfect, or even before January 1st, to get him in the club on January 1st would be even better. But Ollie says, in a sense, he has already waited 6 months. True, that is very, very true. But I mean, in terms of finishing off the season at Palace, because look, there's no doubting it. He'd want to potentially do that, because, like I said, he has a potential to win at least one trophy with Palace. Because let's not forget about it. They're also in the, they embarrassed us in the Carabao Cup, so they have the opportunity to win that as well. And again, they'd want to retain the FA Cup, or try their best to retain the FA Cup as well. So that's obviously another thing around the situation anyway. But let's move on then. Let's talk then about the main conversation. Let's talk about Antoine Semenyo. Has been the main headline, hasn't he, for many people the last 24, 48 hours after this report from David Ornstein. As you guys can see, but they're Bournemouth may be powerless to prevent Antoine Semenyo sale in January. Contract includes £65 million release clause available to all clubs, but must be triggered by a set date, so Bournemouth get time to replace the players again in the summer at a lower price. So again, what you guys want to know and what you guys should know. So this is what it says in the article. Of course, I can't show you guys, unfortunately, but this is what it goes on to say. It says Bournemouth accept that they may be powerless to prevent Antoine Semenyo from leaving the club as soon as January, even though their desire is to retain him until the end of the season. Semenyo was converted by clubs including Manchester United and Tottenham last summer, but signed a new contract in July that runs until June 2030, as enjoying a impressive campaign so far. To keep him at the Vitality Stadium, which appears to have paid dividends, the 25-year-old forward has already accumulated 6 goals and 3 assists to help his team reach 9th place in the Premier League table so far. Bournemouth agreed that the fresh deal would contain a release clause, Suitors were told during this previous market that the fee required to secure Semenyo was around £70 million, where the sale price for the winter is now formally set at £65 million. It must be activated by a specific date, which would give Bournemouth a couple of weeks to replace their best player and is available to any team possible. The article does also go on to say that the Ghanaian international has recently been linked to Liverpool, Manchester City and Spurs. However, if Bournemouth manage to fend off admirers in the coming months, he'll then be again available once such a transfer window opens, except at an even lower price. So realistically, what the ideal price tag has been spoken about is simple as this. So once again, that price tag right there of £65 million. What we know so far is that the price tag is £60 million plus £5 million in add-ons. Like it says there, it does need to be activated by a certain date. Again, nobody knows who that is apart from, of course, people behind the scenes. But again, it needs to be given time so Bournemouth can find a replacement. And that's the huge one, in my opinion. Now, whether or not Liverpool go on to do that, I think we do. I think Liverpool could possibly be on the 1st of January, could be straight away, right, we're going to go and full on bid and get Antoine Semenyo over the line. Now, £65 million for an Antoine Semenyo, again, I've seen different people with very different opinions on it. I've seen people say that, again, should Liverpool spend 65 million on him? Would it work? I've seen other people saying the 65 million is far too cheap for how good he is. And look, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sit here and go, I've watched Bournemouth week in, week out. I think all of us have kind of looked at Bournemouth this season due to FPL reasons. But watching him at Anfield in that second half, he was unstoppable. And he was the only player in that second half that realistically was driving Bournemouth against us. And really took it to us. Let's not lie around it. Antoine Semenyo in that second half was ridiculous at Anfield at the start of the season. And I think many people have compared him to, and kind of compared the situation to Sadio Mane when he was at Southampton, where again, at a mid-table team, can play on the right, can play on the left, very good with both feet as well. And he does remind me of Sadio Mane, but I think Sadio Mane was a bit more energetic. Is that the right word? I think Semenyo is very much he'll run into the ground for the better of the team, kind of similar to Sadio Mane in that way. But I think that's the bit of difference around it, where I think Sadio Mane was a bit more, what's the right word? Not hyper, but very hyper is the right word. Semenyo is kind of the ground. Work hard, work against. Work with the team. We'll press. We'll do the hard miles. Similar with Mane, but I think a bit different in aspect in terms of the style of play. I think the right word is Mane. I think was a bit more explosive than Antoine Semenyo, but that's what I've seen of him. Now, again, Bournemouth fans will know a lot more than me and a lot more of people as well. But comparing him to Cody Gakpo earlier, there's definitely something there where you look at his defensive numbers and it's very good, in terms of what he offers. And again, he automatically fixes Liverpool's problems in terms of not pressing on the right or not defending enough from the right. I think, in my opinion, because of course Mo Salah's going to leave in January to go to Egypt and go to AFCON, he automatically fixes Liverpool's problems on that side. Does he fix them overall? No, he doesn't. Not in my opinion. But the other thing is the fact that I think Liverpool then can go back to looking a bit more normal in that sense, where right now I think Liverpool have to change system, because at the minute Liverpool getting battered down our right-hand side, it's not good at the moment, is it? And I think the big thing is he automatically changes that. But then I think Liverpool's planning is that he will be the left-hand side player for Liverpool moving forward. I think once Salah is back, maybe the system might get changed again, and then Semenyo is put onto the left instead of Gakpo. Again, ideally, I think he is a good replacement for Luis Diaz and what should have happened in the summer. But as the article does go to say, £70 million was the price tag. Liverpool, maybe after spending the amount of money that we did, maybe the possibility was that we couldn't do it, at the time, and maybe now we can do it because, again, we need to kind of, and also the price tag has come down a little bit because the other important thing really with the Semenyo deal is that it's not a release clause. You have to have to pay up front. It's not a direct 65 million bang straight to Bournemouth. Apparently, you can pay it in installments, which again, installments FC, Liverpool are Klarna FC. Let's not lie around it either. So again, it works favourable in that way. Now, on a Liverpool side of things, Semenyo would be great, but there is also the concern of, number one, he is an Arsenal fan. And there could be the possibility where he himself rejects going anywhere else because Arsenal might come in for him, similar to what Zubi Doo did, and Martin Zubimendi did to Liverpool in that summer window. Rejected us, stayed at Sociedad for the season, then went to Arsenal, didn't he? In this summer window, so could end up being similar, but I think when you listen to Antoine Semenyo and listen to how he has spoken about Liverpool, spoke about Virgil van Dijk, spoke about Anfield as well. Again, he's a big admirer of the football club. And I think it'll be interesting whether or not, because again, when January comes around, you get an idea of where Liverpool are going to be at, whether top four race or Liverpool are in a top four race this season. But in terms of the Champions League, Liverpool could be, well into qualification, and he will come into the team kind of like how Kvaratskhelia went to PSG last season, how, that completely changed their team around, and PSG, the second half of the season, become a completely new team. It could be the same with Liverpool, with Semenyo. It could very well be the case where Liverpool bring in Semenyo, look miles better straight off, and then, hit the ground running again. Maybe, but it's an interesting one, and I want to know your guys' thoughts on, in particular, of would you want Semenyo at Liverpool? For me, it would be a yes. I think he would be a fantastic signing for us, but again, if we was to sign him for 65 million, it would take easily our season spending to over 500 million, which again, a lot of people are a bit fuming about it, but look, at the end of the day, Liverpool can do it. As well, but Cal says he's 25, so around Salah name's age when he will come in. Yeah, around Salah or Mane's age, for sure, when they first come into the team, because that's the thing now. Like, Semenyo is at that age of whether or not he's going to stay at this level, or whether or not he'll be even better, and that's the thing. That's what Liverpool did so well with Sadio Mane and Mo Salah. They were both at a level of they could be about to become world stars, and Liverpool caught it at the right time. In my opinion, I think both of them were nailed on the head of perfect time to excel. I mean, obviously Jurgen Klopp got the best out of them, and obviously the system of Bobby Firmino, Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah. Again, it's one of the, if not the best front three in football history. Obviously, probably the only one as a trio. You probably go what? Neymar, Suarez, and MSN, Messi, Suarez, Neymar, possibly. But in Premier League terms, probably Mane, Salah, Firmino is the best of how we work together so well. But Ollie says a big plus is that he won't be going to the AFCON. Yeah, he won't be going to AFCON either, which is great news for Liverpool. Did Ghana not make the AFCON? No, they didn't qualify, as Ollie said there, which is good news for Liverpool, really. But also, if they did qualify, then yeah, it wouldn't be good for Liverpool in that sense, because again, we'd have Mo Salah and Antoine Semenyo going. But I think the big question mark again, though, is if we was to sign Semenyo, is that then confirming maybe Mo Salah might go next summer? Possibly. But also, I've seen people say that, oh, well, it means that Cody Gakpo's going to leave as well. And that could also be another possibility. But I think as of things right now, Liverpool, in an ideal world, Liverpool have had 7, 8 attackers at times. Where we had the front three of Mane, Salah, Firmino. We had Minamino, we had Shaqiri, we had Origi at the football club. Like, we had a completely different front three again, on top of it. But this season round, we haven't got that really. We've got, on left wing options, you've got Cody and Rio and Kamoa. Strikers, of course, Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike. Right wing, Mo Salah and Federico Chiesa. But at the minute, we're not using Federico Chiesa, who probably deserves to start over Mohamed Salah at the minute. Alexander Isak hasn't shown up at the moment for Liverpool. Ekitike has probably been the best one of the lot. Cody has been okay, could obviously be better. And Rio, Paul the lad hasn't really been given an opportunity since the Newcastle game. So in that sense, when you look at it, for me, I think you have to go and get at least another winger because it's essential. If anything is possible, Hughes and Edwards will do it. True, that's very true. Yes, definitely can't think of much better left. Yeah, I think the market is it's a terrible market. Let's be honest. But also Liverpool. Look, I think everyone can admit it now. And realize that Liverpool should never have got rid of Luis Diaz. But it's quite easy enough for me to say this, but also the fact that Luis Diaz wanted to leave, and there's no disharming that either. Look, Luis Diaz was very good for Liverpool, and very underrated now, I think, by many people. But he wanted to leave. He wanted to go and challenge himself elsewhere. He wanted to get a brand new contract to obviously be probably his last big contract, unless of course he's going to go to Saudis. So yeah, look, and he's doing fantastic work at Bayern Munich. And look, there's the possibility where they're storming away with the Bundesliga title like they always do. But the way Company is playing at the minute, the way Luis Diaz is playing, Harry Kane, Elise as well, that front three is scary. It's a scary front three, and it could very well be big favourite for the Champions League this season. I think Bayern Munich, you wouldn't want them in a tie for sure. But yes, definitely can't think of many better left wingers. Winger market is poor. I agree. In my opinion, Semenyo has tested Anfield and the atmosphere and wants it. Guna or not, true. That is true. But I think I always get worried though. Again, Arsenal, they will possibly want to replace Martinelli and Trossard at some point. If you can sell one of them in January and then go and get a Semenyo, that's another option for them. Because I do think if you had the option, I think you would go to Arsenal. Because again, Arsenal fan. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Semenyo reminds me of Son. Can play both sides and both feet. Yeah, it's a good comparison. I think, look, it'll be interesting because, again, hopefully data, the data people will know and will suggest things and that. But I think for me, the big thing is he can play at both. I think at the minute Liverpool needs a player like that can, again, is unpredictable, both good on both feet. The goal he scored a couple of weeks ago where he took it to the byline and basically just, drilled it bottom corner, it was a really good goal, and that's something Liverpool don't really have at the minute because, again, Cody Gakpo is so predictable at the minute. And again, that's not really a dig at Cody, but at the minute, Liverpool are very predictable to play against because you give the ball to Cody, it's to the touchline, little step in, come across the goal, shoot or try and assist, and that's all he does. Doesn't Cody? The biggest annoyance, right, with Cody Gakpo is he doesn't take on the man, and that's the annoying thing about him. And also, for somebody who is 6'4" or 6'5", he doesn't use his body well, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, that's just my opinion. I think we need Chelsea scouts that Estevao, whatever his name is. But to be fair, like again, Liverpool have them type of scouts out there. The only problem is Chelsea are the ones that are just buying them all at the minute. Like the young Ecuadorian centre half that they bought, the one who's now being, compared to the next icon or whatever. Like I think Liverpool were also in talks with him, but yeah, obviously Chelsea will offer ridiculous amounts of money, for young talent, which goes to show that they've done it now for since 2022, 2023. So yeah, we're not going to beat anyone in that aspect of things anyway. Great player, son, wasted at Spurs. Yeah, but in some sense, like, look, Spurs challenged for years, didn't they? Let's not lie around this. Spurs were very competitive for what 2-3 seasons, and just wasn't. I don't know, wasn't backed, but also the team, it just never really progressed. Did it? Again, finishing behind Leicester, got to a Champions League final against us, and obviously lost. Lol. But after that, it never really progressed. And then when they actually spent money, they and bought certain players, it was too late. And yeah, like thing is, Spurs, like Son leaving Spurs this summer was probably the best thing that could have happened, because they won the trophy and they won the Europa League, and it was all a happy ending then in the end. But looking at it now, could Son have done it another year at Tottenham? Possibly, but again, it's a whole different question mark. And hello, Luke. Hopefully doing well as well. But look, let me know your guys' thoughts anyway on Antoine Semenyo, because look, I think for me personally, I think he'd be a good signing for Liverpool. Do I think we'll end up doing it? 60% of me says yes, 40% says no. Personally, right now, I do think Liverpool signed 2 players in January. Whether or not that turns into 3 is another question mark in itself. And it's mad me saying it after the money we spent. But once again, the problem that Liverpool find themselves in, we did not add to the team. We didn't add to the squad. Really, when you think about it, we didn't add upon the title winning team. We replaced the people that we got rid of. Isaac replaced Darwin Núñez. Ekitike replaced Darwin Núñez. Isaac replaced Luis Diaz. In some sense, we didn't add a left winger. We didn't add a number 6. We didn't add a centre back. In terms of Joel Konza leaving, we didn't add a right back because we replaced Trent with Frimpong, and so on. Kirk, as you could say, replaced Kostas Tsimikas, but still the idea was that Milos Kerkez would be Liverpool's number 1 left back, and it hasn't materialised, unfortunately. So there's definitely things that could have gone better. Let's not lie around it either. But look, hopefully we'll find out in a couple of weeks maybe, and of course the whole thing with the contracts as well. Hopefully Liverpool will get certain individuals re-signed. Hopefully starting with Dominic Szoboszlai in the next couple of weeks. But like I said, videos will be back to normal on the channel. We'll be back to normality in some sort of way, or some sort of thing at the minute. Again, we're going to try and do a bit more pre-records as well, and obviously the shorts and so on as well. So again, be full of content with football coming back and so on as well, because again, it's pretty much football now for every 3 days. Let's not lie around it either, to be fair, but look, we'll have to wait and see. But what else do we have? Do you see Leao wanted Liverpool moving in the summer? Yeah, no. Rafael Leao would not be good in any shape or form. Again, Liverpool, to be fair, we didn't really mention it in the Semenyo bit, but again, Liverpool turned down the chances to sign Barcola and Rodrigo this summer, and we didn't go for it. Rodrigo, by the way, I think he'll definitely be on the move in January. Where that's to, who knows? But I don't think it'll be Liverpool. I think it'll be maybe City, or could even be somewhere else potentially. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, but look, hopefully you guys have enjoyed tonight's live stream. Anyway, very much appreciated for everyone tuning in. If you are new to the channel, please do hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well. Again, we are on the road to 5k. I think we are at the minute. So hopefully you guys are already subscribed. But yeah, hopefully I will see you guys again tomorrow for another episode. Hopefully as well, we'll be back. For God's sake, Ollie. P.S. What's her name? Patricia. No, I'm joking. There is no female in my life. Very far away from that. I know I am straight. For anyone who says that, no, but yeah, no. Let's just say this: nobody wants me. So there we go. But again, football's back, so we'll be back live. But yeah, Nikon, good to see you again after so long. Yeah, I love talking football and getting your guys' thoughts anyway. But there's a female. He's called Chiquino Makendo. To be fair, I haven't spoken to Makendo in the last like 2-3 days, so I'll have to give Mac a message as well. But obviously, Mac's doing a lot of stuff on Anfield Index as well, so obviously go and check them guys out, and a lot of other obviously great channels out there at the minute as well. Anyway, but hopefully, like I said, you guys have a good rest of your nights, and yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. But until next time, that's going to be it from me. I've been Connor from the Cock Council. We'll see you guys next time. Ta-ra.